Bearcat Blitz, taking you all into camp week with us here on the Believe Network. I'm your host, Russ Heltman. He's my co-host, Neil Meyer. Excited to be out of the off season, everybody, and into fall camp, the month of fall camp for Cincinnati Bearcats football, exactly 1 month away from kicking off the 2025 regular season in Kansas City against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Of course, you can catch me at Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. You can catch Neil and his coverage at the frontofficenews.com. You can catch our show on whatever podcast platform you frequent or on YouTube as well. Talking Cats with Russ Heltman. We have a fun show in store for you all today. A body transformation posted by Brendan Sorsby. That was a fun little story going into the weekend. Joe Royer has been ranked as a top 3 tight end for the 2026 draft by The Athletic. And we also have a little bit of Big 12 odds assessment breakdown. I wanted to do that with Neil as we get into the fall camp thick of things. We've already talked about the defense. We've already talked about the offense. And we will discuss the odds market this week for Cincinnati Bearcats football, where they are on the Big 12 championship odds, where they are on the win total as we sit entering the month of August. All that coming up on Bearcat Blitz across the Believe Network. Stick with us through these messages. Neil, it's finally here. The off season is over for you and I. Basketball, football, the whirlwind begins starting on this Monday through basically what? Like hopefully we're hoping through the first couple weeks of April in terms of games being played and us covering practices and all that good stuff between football and basketball. The offseason's over, Neil, and the offseason has it ever really been on for Brendan Sorsby? That's where we will start in the show this week. He posts a crazy body transformation that he went through courtesy of Nico Palizzetti and the Cincinnati Bearcats strength team over the past not even 2 seasons. It's been basically 18 months that Sorsby has been in the program. And Neil, he's gone from pudgy, no definition type body to a cut, ready to roll, dual threat weapon at the quarterback position for Cincinnati Bearcats football. This photo, people can find it on Brendan Sorsby's social media, thanking Nico Palizzetti for the upgrade. I'm sure it got a lot of Bearcats fans very excited heading into the first week of fall camp.
Yeah, absolutely. And Russ, it's great to mention that not if this was a kind of post that was circulating from Brendan Sorsby, but I've seen other players mention it across Instagram and other social media platforms. I know that you're not on Instagram, so I've seen a couple other guys. I saw Dante Corleone posted a picture as well. Jack Dingle, Gianni Contosis, Kai Stokes, to name a few others. These guys are looking absolutely shredded, and we have heard that Nico Palizzetti has had these guys working in the weight room. And these results are paying off, and you saw that with the post from Brendan Sorsby. And Russ, it's kind of ironic that if you're looking at this picture, I mean, Brendan Sorsby looks like he is not a quarterback in that picture.
He looks like a
Just saying to you.
linebacker.
Yeah, he is absolutely shredded. And to see the comments under it as well from Nico Palizzetti saying it's been a pleasure, called him an Iron Bearcat. And then I don't know if you've had time to scroll through the comments or anything, Russ, but uh, battery mate Tawi Walker commented under the picture. I'm not sure if you saw this. He said, "quote unquote, you are so lucky we didn't know each other when you look like that first picture." So overall, these guys are having some fun with it a little bit as well, and these guys are excited to get out and hit the gridiron this afternoon, and it's going to be a hot one at Camp Higher Ground. But Russ, we're not going to have any breaks for the next 8 or 9 months here between you and I. So a lot of content coming, but man, I'm excited to be back out there at Camp Higher Ground. Only 1 week this year, but it is going to be an exciting time to see these guys hit the gridiron for the first time since March.
I'm excited to see practice at the new facility, baby. I am excited to
Oh,
get
me
in
too.
there,
Me
see
too.
practice at the new performance center, and really just dive into life covering the team in that building because I cannot wait to do it. It's going to be so much fun. And of course, due to that $134 million gym that is now sitting on campus, a little bit of an abbreviated trip out west. It is west technically to Indiana to Camp Higher Ground, which is where we will be covering practice this week. Neil, are you going to try to make it? Are you going to be able to make it to every practice? I know I'll only be there tonight and at the Saturday practice. Those are the only ones I'm able to make. Which ones are you going to?
Yep, I'll be there every day this week.
There
Every
you
day
go.
for Camp Higher Ground.
There you go. So got the Indiana trip on the board for the Bearcats football team. They can bond a little bit there, but obviously, I mean, it makes sense. Like you don't build this $134 million facility in what is a very pivotal season for Scott Satterfield's tenure and not utilize it. Like you're not going to go a month away leading into the season and not utilize that facility to the utmost that it can be used, while also mixing in a very important bonding trip to go to Indiana at Camp Higher Ground. I think, Neil, this is a good mixture. This is the right way to do it. You get a week away, you get a week break. You have been working out there. You've been in Clifton, you've been in Cincinnati all summer for some of these guys, basically ever since Camp Higher Ground trip last year in some respects. And you get them away a little bit. You get out of the doldrums, the normal kind of routine of being in the city. But all in all, that performance center, it's going to come calling after a week, and there's no surprise as to why they've made this schedule tweak for the month of end of July and the month of August.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense too, Russ, because I know you and I kind of talked about it before Scott Satterfield told us the schedule and the plans for fall camp.
Yeah, we
But
were anticipating not a full stint in Indiana for sure.
it just makes more sense to utilize the practice facility because you and I have covered this program for 5, 6 years now, and you look at how daunting and how much Camp Higher Ground can wear on these bodies, right? And I mean, you see it. They're sharing cold tubs. They're limited resources out there at Camp Higher Ground because they're away from Clifton, obviously. So
Right.
overall, when you come back after a long hot practice in the middle of July, you'll see 4 to 5 guys in those big giant cold tubs recovering their body. But now that you have a $134 million facility right here at home, basically in Clifton, go for a week, you come back and you can use the cryotherapy, you can use the red light, all that kind of stuff that Nico Palizzetti has at his expense to get these guys recovered, especially being on a quote unquote shortened offseason, right? With the week one game versus Nebraska, things are going to get rolling a lot quicker for Cincinnati. So you want to be fully healthy heading into that big time week one matchup versus Nebraska at Arrowhead Stadium. So I'm excited for it, Russ, obviously, too. Camp Higher Ground. It has its tradition. You heard a lot of guys talk about how much they like being out there and how it brings the team together. But when you have that $134 million practice facility, you got to utilize it as much as possible, in my opinion. So I'm excited to see them continue the higher ground tradition for a week, but also have the opportunity to break in that new IPF and get back on campus and get ready for August 28th when they head up to Kansas City and take on Nebraska.
Speaking of traditions, tight ends in the NFL drafts go hand in hand when it comes to Cincinnati Bearcats football. And another tight end will almost assuredly get drafted to the NFL ranks from Cincinnati after this coming season, unless, knock on wood, something catastrophic happens in terms of injury or fall off in terms of production, that kind of sense. But would be shocked if that were the case for Joe Royer as he came in on the Athletics, the Dane Brugger from the Athletics latest summer rankings top 10 tight ends list at number 3 after setting a Bearcats record with 50 catches last season for 522 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was his third ranked tight end among all draftable tight ends entering the 2025 season. Neil, I mean, Joe Royer got a day 2, day 3 evaluation, took that to heart, said, all right, I'll go ahead and prove I'm a day 1 type player and go back to college football and try to be the best tight end in this class. Already some kind of inklings and some rumblings and some projections thinking he's going to have a shot to make that statement throughout the 12 games coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Russ, if he continues to have a season like he had in 2024, there's a great shot Joe Royer could become the highest tight end drafted in Cincinnati Bearcat history, to say the least.
Is
And
it
you
Kelsey
look,
has got that right now? Is it still Kelsey in the third round?
yep, Kelsey in the third round, DeGuara went in the late third or fourth round, not to in
Yeah.
2021 or 2022. But overall, I mean, Russ, you look at what this tight end class could do. I mean, everybody talks about going into the NFL draft, right? Joe Royer didn't see much playing time at Ohio State. And then he came to Cincinnati and he balled out. He broke the franchise or the program record with receptions, 500 yards, a big year. And then on top of it, people always gave him you always hear the talk of you don't want to go to the NFL draft with just 1 year of tape. And despite getting a third to fourth round grade last year, Joe Royer elects to come back. He's betting on himself to kind of have another big season for Cincinnati. And if he is able to stay healthy and produce at the rate he was last season, being that 6'4", 255-pound tight end that he is, basically another wide receiver to your offense. He does so many things well. There's a good chance that Joe Royer could find his name heard or hear his name called in the first round of the NFL draft or even the second round. Because you look down at these projections, Russ, I only think there's one tight end maybe better than Joe Royer this year, and that's Max Clare, the Purdue transfer to Ohio State. But outside of that, I think it's between Clare and Joe Royer as your top two tight ends in this class.
Would be the first top 3 round selection for Cincinnati Bearcats football since Trey Tucker in 2023, if that were to happen. A long way to go to get there, though. We are still 9 months away from the NFL draft. But good to see. Good to see Joe Royer getting that recognition for what he's already done at UC. And obviously, at his size, with his measurables, really, Neil, all Dane Brugler said he's got to prove is that explosive play rate. Get that explosive play rate up, and he could very well have a case to be the top tight end in this draft. A solid blocker, very good with his hands, very strong catch point player. Just needs to mix in a couple more of those 20 plus yard plays to really show he can take the top off a little bit at the next level and be a go-to weapon for an NFL team in April. Take a quick break here. We'll get to the betting odds, notable betting odds for Cincinnati Bearcats football entering fall camp right here on Bearcat Blitz, presented on the Believe Network. Cincinnati Bearcats football, Neil, widely expected to be a long shot team to win the Big 12 this coming season. Consensus odds, we're not going off of any exact sports book right now. Maybe an exact sports book to go off of in the near future. Stay tuned on that announcement. But 30-1 consensus odds, Neil, to win the Big 12. Does that seem about right? Does that seem too low? What do you think about 30-1 for the Cincinnati Bearcats football team? And I'll have the where that ranks in my response.
If I'm being honest, Russ, I think that's a little low. I do. Because everybody is kind of doubting Scott Satterfield and the Bearcats heading into year three in the Big 12. But if you look at everything that Cincinnati has done on paper, right? Bringing back Dante Corleone, Gavin Gerhardt, Joe Royer, Brendan Sorsby, you return your four big time players and big time contributors on both sides of the ball, essentially, right? And then you go out and you make the addition. I thought what Cincinnati did in the transfer portal was huge. You go get two big time offensive tackles and then offensive linemen. You go out and you address the secondary. You address a lot of things that you needed. The wide receiver room's revamped and whatnot as well. So overall, I think that's a little too low. I think this team is really going to shock some people, and that's probably arguably why you did not see a Big 12 media poll this year because people did not fully know what to expect with this not only Cincinnati team, but many teams across the Big 12 because of the transfer portal and the new age of college athletics. But 30-1, I think that's a little too low for Cincinnati.
Right around 11th best odds on the consensus odds boards. UCF in last place at 55-1. Oklahoma State about 53-1. Arizona about 45-1. West Virginia also 45-1. And then Houston at 35-1. I'm with you, Neil. It like for Baylor to be 7-1 and UC to be 30-1, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Nope,
Same with
it does not.
Kansas. That doesn't, I mean, Kansas at 16-1 versus UC at 30-1,
Especially when Kansas is banking on a quarterback who's been in
who,
college for
who
six
can't
years
finish
and
a season.
who hasn't played more than 4 games in 3 years.
Exactly. Exactly. I just think it, the history of Scott Satterfield paired with just you see kind of going dormant over the last couple of years has led people off the scent of how much continuity is there for this team. You have a quarterback who's widely projected to be a top 20 player at his position in the entire country. You look at how he looks coming off of this offseason, that transformation. I mean, the only real question mark on offense is that right tackle position.
Mhm.
Defensively, I say there's a lot more questions in the front seven in terms of who the pass rushing stars are going to be, if there is going to be one outside of Dante Corleone. But yeah, I think I'm just in a league as tight as this, Neil, in a team that went what 1-4 in one score games one possession games last season. I could see some value being there with the Bearcats at 30-1 consistent consensus. And if you look around, I'll go ahead and give the best odds right now. I believe it is there are 35-1s in the market, Neil. 35-1 is in the market right now. So even better odds, better value there at some sports books, depending on where you shop. Always shop if you're making bets this anytime, honestly, you're making bets, always shop around for the best line, but especially with futures bets. I mean, like I mentioned, the difference between 30-1 and 35-1 is pretty substantial in terms of the payout. So find those best lines wherever they are available to you. I'm with you, Neil. I think 30-1, not that I would go and bet it right now. I don't think the Bearcats are going to win the Big 12, but among the bottom half of the entire league and those long shot opportunities, I think Cincinnati is the case to be the best long shot on the board. And then we'll take a look at their win total now as well, Neil. When you look at 6.5, it was hovering at, I think, I think it might have opened at 4.5
Thought
back
it
in.
opened at 5.5.
Did it open at 5.5 this year? That
Mhm.
was last year. I must have been thinking about 5.5 gets boosted up now to a consensus 6.5. I believe there are kind of differing numbers, no matter what sports book you go to. Some flipping with the 5.5 and a lot of minus money, minus odds on the yes. And then also most books at 6.5 with minus money on them to not hit that 7 win margin and plus 110 on the yes number, minus 130 on the no for the consensus. Neil, that feels right about on the money to me. It feels like they got about a 40-ish% chance of winning 7+ games this season, and that's basically the odds you're working with in American fractional odds when you look at the plus 110. It's basically, in my opinion, this is pegged right on the money versus the odds to win the conference championship are a little bit skewed towards Cincinnati having value. What do you think?
Yeah, and if you look at where this thing opened up back in about February or March, a lot of people projected Cincinnati. The over under was what, 5.5 games? Now it's bumped up to 6.5. That should tell you a lot of things in itself, right? That many people are expecting Cincinnati to be back in a bowl game this year. And if most betting odds, most sports books have that at 6.5, they're banking on Cincinnati having some decent success this year. And Russ, I would be right there with you, right? We've talked about the schedule and whatnot multiple times throughout this offseason. This is a great opportunity for Cincinnati and Scott Satterfield to get the ball moving back in the right direction. And that starts by winning 6 games and getting to a bowl game. And many of these sports analysts and these sports betting experts expect Cincinnati to be the same. So I'm very excited to see that line kind of jump up, but you look at where this schedule might trend, it all depends on what kind of happens this offseason. But there's great expectation that Cincinnati will be fighting for an opportunity to play down in Dallas for a Big 12 championship. And we have heard that from multiple players throughout this offseason.
A lot of fun ahead, Neil. We will have, of course, plenty to talk about on Thursday during the Bearcats off day. Touch on all the things we've seen so far at camp. Neil with a few days of practices to be able to touch on, and should be a lot of fun. Cannot wait to get after it for another season covering Cincinnati Bearcats football right here on the Believe Network. This has been Bearcat Blitz. Enjoy your Monday, everybody.